Halito. Hey, beloved. Halito. Halito. All right, y'all. My Tupac voice. Let me know. Holla if you hear me. Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, we got BCFC joining us. I do have another wonderful guest that's going to be joining us today. Divine sister, Miss Dominique Itiba, and she will be here joining us as well. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Let me get our sister BCFC. Get BCFC up in the building. In 1 moment. Get sister BCFC up in the building. It is hot, y'all. I don't know where y'all at, but it is hot in New York City. It is hot, hot, hot. Let me see. Okay, that is. Give me 1 moment. Okay, let me try and fix that. How's that? Is that better? Can y'all hear me better now? That's better, y'all. Press 1 if y'all can hear me, family. Empress Erica, how you doing, beloved? I miss y'all too. Everything's well. Okay, y'all can hear me. All right, I gotta get Sister BC. Let me get this stuff in here. Give me 1 moment. Hold on 1 second. I'll get the sister on. Y'all already see what hot topic we got going on today, right? I know y'all see that. Okay. Let me see if we got there she goes. There's the sister.
Halito family.
Hey, beloved. Okay, let me just make sure everybody can hear. Make sure everybody can hear. Press 1 if y'all can hear both of us. I hear you just fine, sister.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Okay. I got a special surprise for y'all too. Ah, Slicky Slicky. I'm about to get one of our beautiful elders on board right now. She just sent me a text. So y'all give me a second, 1 second, 1 time for the mind. Okay. I got the elder. So y'all don't think we just, and it's somebody that been married a long time, because I don't want the men to think that we just going on some goddamn bash fest, because that ain't what it is. But we got to call it how we see it now, and we're going to fix y'all up. So y'all could, we ain't got no discord between us. You know what I'm saying? We got to talk about these things. This is for constructive build. This ain't to single nobody out and make don't want y'all to not feel like y'all not appreciated. Y'all not special because you definitely are.
Facts.
definitely are. Let me just get this in. BCFC, go ahead and talk to the people, darling. Give me 1 second while I contact the elder and get the elder in the building.
Peace, peace, Halito family. Pretty much, like our sister was saying, this is not a bashing type of stream. This is an informative type of stream to set, the record straight on a lot of false propaganda, and also from a lot of the things that I've been seeing in terms of the way that like women have been treated. And we have to correct, I don't want to go too far in that in this, like before we get started. But we're gonna, if we want to be successful, as a people, we're gonna have to correct a lot of the malfunctions that's going on within our community.
That's right.
And this isn't a start. Like we said, this is not bashing, this is more of constructive criticism. And like, if you want to be successful, one of the things that you have to learn to do is to be able to accept constructive criticism without, allowing it to affect your self-esteem. You should allow it to build you instead of allowing it to bring you down.
That's right. That's right. And also, brothers, y'all should be able to tell y'all other brothers how to deal with us too. Because this don't apply to all of y'all. You know what I'm saying? Some of y'all know how to deal with us, and some of y'all know how to treat your daughters and know how to treat your women. So, is it not? Is it doesn't make you feel less macho to express how the men can't have so much contempt against us? Like, you see something, say something. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's going to take a team effort, and we need y'all to help these other brothers into some of this what we're trying to say. For those of y'all that
Facts.
have it and know exactly how to deal with us, how to ignore us when we talk too damn much, how to pay us attention when we don't say enough, how to, catch us when we slipping. The same way we boost y'all up, we need the same thing. We do not need to be the dartboard. You know what I'm saying? We don't need to be the dartboard when
The
there's a whole
punching
lot of
bag.
bullseye. No punching bags. Especially for the brothers that let the oppressor beat up on them, and then they want to come in the house and you know to get their Ike Turner and shit on. And when I say Ike Turner, it doesn't necessarily mean physical. Sometimes it's emotional, and
Verbal.
certainly it's mental and verbal. You know what I'm saying? So we definitely gotta figure out how to communicate with one another. That's first and foremost. I'm sorry some of these men had these mothers that didn't do the right thing by them, so it ends up where they get to a certain age and they're looking for that mother figure, right? At the end of the day, some of y'all got daughters. And if you need to be the man that you want your daughter to encounter, that's real facts right there. It's
Correct.
imperative to be the man that you want your mother around, that you wouldn't mind dating your sisters. If you're not that type of man, then don't go messing up nobody else's life. Because some of these men just looking to, you know, smother
Mess
and
up anybody's life.
yeah, and that self destruction and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's the stuff that we got to get away from. That's absolutely
Mental suicide.
that's right. That's right. And certainly, the patriarchal system, that shit don't work for us, y'all. We've been doing that
It
for a
don't.
very long time. It's time to switch it up. And that don't mean we're gonna be trying to walk all over y'all and stuff like that. But if y'all don't take, some of the things that we suggest, some of the things that we offer to do as valid, we're gonna have a problem. We're gonna have a problem. And we're gonna continue to have the problems that we are already having. And that's something that we're trying to get out of. We all gonna need each other, right? Side by side,
Facts.
side by side. Not
The
one in front
patriot.
of the other.
Go ahead. I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
sister.
No, that's
Uh,
okay. Go ahead.
the patriarchal system has never worked for us. And it's time for us to realize that we're going to have to dig into a lot of the false propaganda and stuff that has been spread, to look at the truth. Because
Mhm.
there's a lot of false propaganda, like the welfare system broke up the family. That's not true. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. And I'm going to show you how that is not true. And
That's
just
right.
like our men seem to think that they're the only ones that went through pain and struggle. But that's not true. Women go through just as much, and I'm going to be honest with you, if not more
That's right.
pain and struggle in a patriarchal system. Because let's just say, right now, still today, women don't earn the same, for the same job, women don't earn the same amount as a man. Yet a lot of times the women is left taking care of the children.
That's right. That's right. That's
And
absolutely right.
and just like let's look at the welfare system. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and go in. I'm trying to hold back,
No,
but
you
I'm gonna
go
go
for
ahead
it.
and go
This
go
this is
in for a minute.
this
Just
is
like we
Matriarch Monday, honey. Let's go for it. We here.
just like we've been told, and I actually looked at it at first too, and we've been told that the welfare system is what broke up the so-called black families, right? All right, so I thought about real life. I played it in real life. That's not what happened. First of all, if a woman had to get on welfare, then like what if the woman had to get on welfare, then it was the absence of an income. Why did that woman have to get on welfare in the first place? Nine times out of ten, it was to provide shelter and food for the children. And we all know that with welfare, you have to have children. You have to have children. Now, I know for a fact, I've seen it on movies, I know it in real life, where most of the time, even though the rules were that men couldn't stay in those households, because what it was is if it was based on income. So, it was based on income. And why, and it's to help build you up. It's not for you to stay on it, abuse it, use it, or anything of that nature. Because, quite frankly, if you just sit there and you get to the point where you get comfortable and you depend on it, then you're not fulfilling, all your potential. You're not doing what you really need to do. And that serves as a bad example for your children because they're gonna, get that same frame of thinking. So, in a lot of cases back in the day, you hear the stories of Papa was a Rolling Stone, where, he would like where the Papa was a Rolling Stone, where, like he would go out for a loaf of bread and they wouldn't see him anymore. Then, like all of a sudden, when he died, you find out you got other sisters and brothers out there, and we all know that that is so frequent within our
Mm-hmm.
community.
That's right.
Okay, now so like every time Papa was a Rolling Stone, and he came wherever he laid his hat was his home. Okay, when he got up and he went to the next house, he was leaving that woman and them children unattended to with no
Right.
help. That was an income that was missing. So that woman had to figure out a way to provide for herself and her children.
That's right.
Okay. And then, so it didn't work out at the next home. So now Papa want to come back and he want to move in, the Section 8 or the welfare house with the woman he originally abandoned. Okay. And he don't want to contribute. Okay, so the system starts seeing, okay, oh no, this is not gonna happen. You know, this is not gonna happen. So that's when they came out with rules. But if a man was disabled back then and was on welfare, so that whole story is untrue. As well as there were a lot of men still today. If you go in any projects, let's keep it real. We all have projects wherever we live. If you go in any projects, you're gonna see men there.
Mm-hmm.
The same rules apply, but they're living there.
That's right.
So that's so well, the welfare system broke up the black family because the man couldn't live there. That is not true
That's
at
absolutely
all.
untrue.
And
Absolutely untrue.
and I'm so sick of them using that. And when they use that, it's not just like, okay, well, they're not blaming the system. Actually, what they're doing is finding a way to point the finger and blame it on the black woman, the
Mm-hmm.
so-called black woman.
Mm-hmm.
So, like we got to, keep these things in mind because that's not how it was. Oh, and women get more opportunity than a man. No, it's not. Because most of the time, like I said, women get paid like for the same job, women don't get paid the same amount. As well, back in those days and times when we're talking about, when the welfare system and things like that first came out, um, for so-called black women, there were only certain jobs that we were allowed to have, like cleaning up, being a maid. But we couldn't go work in the offices, because this was before, I forgot the name of the word, before they had to give everybody a fair chance. I forgot the name of it. I'll think of it later. But this was before then. So certain jobs that women couldn't get. Okay, and so therefore, you can only clean up and different things like that. Whereas men, there was construction, there was sanitation, there was like a number of different jobs, and they were getting paid fairly decent. And how many times have I heard an elder? Because I'm real close to with a lot of elders, and this is where I get the truth from. Ask the elders; they gonna tell you the truth. How many times? Like, I know for a fact, I have some people in my family from back in the day that had husbands that worked and lived in the household. When they got their check, guess what? They didn't see them for a whole week, and when they came back, they didn't have no money at all. So that still left that woman to have to find a way to provide food or whatever else was necessary for those children.
That's right. That's right. I wanna let me play this clip for y'all talking about back in the days in welfare. I don't know if y'all remember the movie Claudine. Do y'all remember the movie Claudine with the beautiful Diane
Yes,
Carroll
yes, yes,
and the
yes.
brother James Earl Jones? Let me get this little clip together. And it's right on YouTube, so they shouldn't have no problem with it. Let's see. Hold on one second. Let me get this together for y'all. So I'm gonna do this screen share. And
Fair
I'm gonna
use,
tell y'all
fair use,
fair
fair
use. That's
use.
right. This is fair use. We're not trying to jack nobody content. Okay. And this is the movie Claudine. Give me one second, y'all. And they used to call this, black exploitation movies and stuff like that. This is from that era. But Diane Carroll still is beautiful now as she was 40, 50 years ago. So let me tell y'all, it don't crack. It don't crack. Now, give me one second. Let me get this clip up here. All right. Now let me know how this goes. Okay, here it is. Now this is from the movie Claudine. Now check out this scene with James Earl Jones. Okay, let me bring it back. Y'all know that's Lenny Kravitz's mother, Roxy Vocal, right? Now can you hear me? Give me one second.
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you guys hear the clip?
No, I can't hear the clip yet.
Okay. All right, give me one second. Let me fix that. Let me fix that. Okay. Now let me know if y'all can hear the clip. I'm gonna start it over. Oh, here we go. All right, let me bring it back. Can y'all hear that clip?
Yes, but can you turn it up?
Sure, let me get to that. Hold on a second.
Yes, but can you turn it up?
Give me one second. Give me one second. Let me get it together, y'all. Let's see. Okay, let me bring it back. Hold on a second. Let me know if y'all can hear that. I was trying to get this mixer up. Oh, it's like the volume's all the way up. Now y'all see that? That was such a dope movie. I'm going to suggest that y'all check that movie out. That movie's Claudine. Is there feedback going on?
Yeah, there's a little feedback and I can't hear the audio.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, there's a little feedback and I can't hear the audio.
All right, give me 1 second. Oh, that was crazy. Okay. All right, all right, all right. Is that better?
I can't hear the audio. Maybe you can commentate, sort of tell people, and then drop the link or something where they can go back and look at it if you can't get it to work.
Yeah, I can do that. I can do that. So
Peace,
yeah,
family.
that was the movie Claudine. Y'all need to check that out. But that scene explains just what BCFC was speaking about in regards to it did not it did not make it to where the men couldn't be in the household. That's not true. It was damned if you do and damned if you don't. That's essentially it. And it was never enough money to support the family. And then also at that time, you see, men were men back then. Claudine was not his wife. Those children were not his children. However, however, he had a family and he made sure that he took care of her and those children. They ultimately ended up moving into the household with him.
Facts.
Ended up moving up into his household. Give me 1 second. My cousin got all these damn windows
Okay.
open.
And I'll fill in a little bit until. Um,
Yeah.
but yes, she brought up a good point. It's like if you like I've heard the false propaganda about women with children, other women with children. If you're a man and you like that woman and she has children, when you accept that woman, you're also accepting the children. And women do the same thing because men these days a lot of times already have children. So like when they accept you, they accept your children. It's called an extended family. And so Like I've heard a lot of men say, well, I don't want no woman with no children or whatever. It's very few women out here today that don't have children. And
That's
so
right.
that's not a good attitude to have. And a lot of times the same men that are saying that are also men that have, multiple children out there. So that's not a good attitude to have. We have to think more balanced in terms of, our thinking.
That's right. That's right. And there's a lot of men that want children, but they think they're gonna find some virgin woman with no children, never been touched before. I think that's the most unrealistic shit going on right now. You know,
Mhm.
I had an excellent stepfather. Man, he was so great to me. He was so great to me, and I thank him. I'm just so happy he was. I grew up in that era where I'm telling you, men were men. They didn't come over empty-handed. It wasn't no in the middle of the night creeping with no groceries and shit in their hand. You know what I'm saying? We lived together. We broke bread together. We built things. You know, he helped me with my homework, showed me how to ride a bike, tie my sneaker, things like that. You know what I'm saying? That was my protector. That was my hero. You know, he's the one that gave me my confidence. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really understand that I was not his child until I was much older. So there is a significant difference in the way that men behaved back then versus what they do now. The life expectancy was absolutely different, even further back than the 1900s. If you take it back to the 1800s, many women died during childbirth. So grandpa might have got married to a second woman, right? And that was who took care and raised his kids. And that may be the grandmother that most know, but that may not even have been the children's mother. So it was plenty of other situations in which the men had to play a different role. Now I do see a lot of you know men right now that are single fathers. So how would it be if the women decided they don't want a man with no kids? How do women feel about men having families already that they didn't create with that woman?
Facts. And then the thing on top of that, there are some men out here who are single fathers who only get with women just to have somebody to take care of their child
That's
or
right.
those
That,
children.
that is true. That is true. And sisters, don't make it difficult for these men. Not all of them want to bring harm to your children and stuff like that, but certainly you got to vet them out though. You can't just have no people around the house and stuff like that. That's just unbelievable. You can't even have and from some of the stories I'm hearing about from men saying that they were molested by their mother's friends, you can't even have your homegirls really up around your children either.
Facts. The only difference is it's expected, cause and we gotta stop spreading a lot of this propaganda. Just like it's expected for we sort of egg on our little boys to be um to be sexual deviants.
That's
It's
right.
expected for a little boy. Oh yeah, he a player, he gonna be a mac, he gonna be a woman killer. And you're doing all that, but you're not instilling in your little boy that sex comes with responsibility.
That's
Like for
right.
one, a girl, a woman pregnant, then you have a child, and it's for both of you to take care of. And you don't have to live in the same household to be a father. You don't have to live in, and that's another excuse they use. Just because you're not in the same household does not mean that your fatherly responsibilities end. You still can go pick your child up, ride with them. Because raising a child is not just putting a little food on the table or you putting a little food on the table. Raising a child means you're raising them mentally, spiritually, and physically.
That's a
So,
fact.
and it's required by both parents because you're going to get that feminine energy from the mother and you're going to get that masculine energy from the father. So,
That's
those
right.
people that use the excuse of, uh, you know, the fact that they're not in the household, or for those people that think that just because, and I mean like just whether male or female, use the excuse of, just because they take $150 or $300 out of your check, that's all that's required to raise that child. That's wrong.
That's right. That's right. Let me know, guys. Can y'all hear me better? Does that sound a little better? I know they're always having sound check problems. Press one if the sound is a little better this way. Let me know if y'all can hear the sound. Is that better?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. Let me see. Hold on one second. BCFC, can you go ahead while I try and adjust the sound, sister?
Yes. As well, like, okay, so we left off on the raising a child, how that's both mental, physical, and the fact that just because you're in the household does not mean that that your fatherly or motherly responsibilities in there. As well, um, like, I hear a lot of like, let's go back to like some of the other reasons that some of the relationships or some of the marriages and stuff don't and didn't work. um let's look at, should a woman stay in a household where she's being abused in front of her children, or if her children are being abused as well? Should a woman stay in that household? Nor should a man.
Mm-hmm.
So this also could contributes to the reasons that a lot of our households, or black families, or so-called black families, don't last or are not successful. And before you even think about getting into a relationship with someone else, whether you're a male or a female, you need to make sure you're okay. You need to make sure because a lot of times we have unresolved childhood issues, and issues that we haven't dealt with either. And then we're taking that baggage into a relationship with another person. And if they're coming with unresolved baggage, then you end up having a child. Then that child has to deal with both all that baggage. So now you're building another dysfunctional family. And that's the way we got to start looking at that. We need healthy families. We just don't need just children running around here. We need healthy children running around here, and that's mentally, physically, and the whole 9 yards. We need healthy families, not just people running around posing or acting as though they happily married, where both of the partners have what they call them side pieces,
Right. That's
and the
right.
children are observing all of that. And then we're going to get into the treatment, because that's the most important reason why we're on here. Because a lot of men, they this, that, and the other, blaming everything on a woman. But look at YouTube. Look at the average channel out here by the average so-called black man. On 90% of those channels, 90%, you're gonna see some so-called black woman bashing, and you're gonna also see some womanizing. And a lot of these men sometimes are married, and they're sitting there in public flirting with the next woman. What does that look like? What kind of example is that?
That's right. That's right.
And then they're the main ones that are the ones trying to tell so-called black women what's wrong with them. A man can never tell. A man can't. These men cannot speak for a woman. A man. A man cannot properly articulate how a woman feels inside. And a lot of these men are not even listening. Only a woman can do that. So this is like it's time for, like, us so-called black women, or us women in general, to find our voices. Because how else are we going to straighten this out? How else are we going to get things back on the right page if we do not find and express our voices? A closed mouth don't get fed.
That's right. Our beautiful Empress has joined us. There's our beautiful Empress right there.
Peace, peace, love, light, and abundance, sisters.
Halito,
Halito.
Halito, sister.
this is awesome.
Halito.
You.
Beautiful ones.
That's right. We all been married before, so there's so much that we can talk about. Some have ended better than others, and some are still carrying on, and that's the beautiful thing. Even after the children were grown, you never realized when you were small. the problems and the things that the parents go through just to stay together for themselves, let alone to stay together for the children. So once you become an adult, you start to find out things about mama and daddy, that they may not have always been happy, or, but you got to be thankful for the upbringing that you have. And sometimes people don't always have those relationships with their parents, but there's always aunts and uncles and grandparents that have done some significant things. We've seen those relationships that have lasted. There's, man, I know people that's been together longer than the Isley brothers. You know what I'm saying? Tell you, they always tell us how it's not easy, but they have chosen each other to make sure that regardless of what goes down, I got your back, and and vice versa. And sometimes that alone, just knowing who you really making your partner, it's not just I Tarzan and you Jane. You got to have a financial commitment. So you want to deal with somebody that's going to be financially responsible. You want to deal with somebody that's going to
Facts.
have decent temperament. You can't have somebody that's doesn't have the patience. And sometimes women, you have to learn how to be quiet. We got to learn how to be quiet, when to talk. Men got to know when we need to talk, when we need to get some things off of our chest, and they have to be more vocal. And also, I noticed that men are raised from birth to not cry, man up, be strong, and not to show any emotion that we get with some of these guys, and we expect them to be watching fucking Lifetime movies with us and shit. That shit just ain't gonna work. So it's a lot of things that we have to respect too, and this is going to go both ways, but it's definitely start when you small. How do you protect your sisters? How do you protect your cousins? These are some of the questions the men need to flash back to. If your childhood with your parents was something that may have traumatized you or something, you still have relationships with other people in your bloodline, such as your sisters or your female cousins or your auntie or your grandma or somebody like that had a positive relationship with you. So maybe that's something that needs to be focused on. If mama did, Penny and burnt you with the iron and shit, then maybe you don't want to think of her that way but at the same time, you got to address these traumatic issues and things that you know may have caused some of these men to behave the way they do right now. And you can't just say it just happened like that. Something happened to them. Something happened. Whether or not they're going to be honest about it, and talk about their feelings, or even find a woman that's not going to ridicule them for actually having feelings and expressing that they have feelings. You know, communication is definitely top line. Communication is definitely the biggest part of how these things are going to work. And just having your homeboys and homegirls, there's a certain way you treat your homegirls, right? So that should be a certain. You should be able to, especially for the non homosexual men that have homegirls as friends, strictly friends. You see some of the things that she goes through. She's going to make sure you're privy to certain things and how to treat your woman and stuff like that. I hope these guys are taking notes. I hope these guys are taking notes. And I treat my male friends like my brothers. So whatever's good for my son, good for my brother, will certainly be good for my brother.
Facts. Most of my friends coming up, best friends coming up, were male, and we learned from each other. And this is how, like, I learned how to deal with, or how, how to deal like with men, and they learned how to deal with women. And it was like non-sexual relationships. We were best friends. And then another thing, before you get married, or if you're in a relationship, you have to share things with each other. It's called intimacy. And intimacy is not just sexual. Intimacy is knowing that person's favorite color, knowing, like knowing the things that might get up under that person's skin, or knowing, like about their childhood. And you can't get to that point unless you properly, get to the point where you trust each other and you're willing to share. And so if you have trust issues stemming from a child, it's going to be difficult. And a lot of us have those. And I'm going to bring up another issue about what happens to a lot of our children too, that has also sabotaged our relationship a little later. Like, we talk about LGBTQ and a lot of different things, but we never talk about a lot of times what might bring these people to that point. We never talk about how a lot of our children are molested as children. and
That's
the
right.
effects that they have on them in life, in terms of relationship, in terms of their jobs, in terms of their just their neurotic, or their nerves, their nervous system, or their mind. That creates post traumatic stress disorder. It just doesn't come from military. So like there's a lot of things that we really need to look at, and we really are going to have to work very hard, and compassion, to heal if we
That's
want to be successful.
that's right. That's
So
right.
let me add to that with you guys for a minute as an old grandma. And I appreciate all of y'all for not stopping these grandma killers, as things say. We old matriarchs had a little conference call today too. And I'm talking about us old grandmas that y'all be protecting, and we love you for that, and we appreciate you so much because you're the ones that are finally coming together speaking our truth. It's not that we have not it's not that we just trying to be undercover, but a whole lot of times, a lot of our young people have been like, "Oh, they crazy. They don't know what they're talking about." Now you guys have got these. I got these young kids listening, ready to come and sit at grandma's feet, want to know what happened, want to know. They want to know what went on. They want to know now, and we're able to now pass these stories along. But as far as a whole lot of things that went on with our men, it basically has a lot to do, like Sister Phoenix said Sunday, is those marriage certificates make all those certificates and things, they put a person's mind on that they own some stuff, and when they start thinking in terms that they own some stuff, they treat it a little bit differently, And we don't. People are not properties. We don't want to be properties, and that's what a lot of those marriage certificates and all those certificates did to the males. They mess with their ego a little bit because back in time we didn't do all that. You had aunties. Sometimes some kids didn't even know who their mother was because there was so many hands taking care of those little ones. They had grandmama, they had auntie, they had big sister, they had auntie or crap. And some of the kids didn't know who. They knew who was. They know they was getting loved, hugged, and caring, and they was getting what they need as a community, as a village, or whatever you want to call it back during that time. But you had so many relatives that was taking care of so many children. They wasn't quite sure. They didn't miss no mommy. It wasn't like that. It was once they imposed their codes, ordinances, and things like that upon us that we started with all this so crappy mess. And we got more respect for men back then at that time too, because men were they wasn't treating you like that a woman was their property and they were the men and the women was against each other. It was never like that. And our men just don't see. They will see because I don't speak negative. I mean, we'll start to see that all of that effort that was put on them through all these certificates and all these laws and all this stuff, just like they tell you now. You don't even want you to spank your kids, and I just got through speaking with a daycare manager. She said that it's against the law for them to tell a child no. And they had a meeting last week here where they literally brought the Black Lives Matter into the school, pushing that agenda on the kids in the school. Now, whew, it's just a lot of work that has to be done, but we having a deep program, and we're not male bashing, and it's not a bad thing. Yes, our men were traumatized. They did go through some things. Some were incarcerated and still incarcerated for some things that they shouldn't and didn't do. That our people shouldn't be getting all this time for it. But we just have to kind of like deprogram ourselves to their system, like Sister Phoenix said on Sunday about those marriage licenses and all that. See, that's part of that was part of the effery.
I agree. I agree. And we got some little creepish, little trouble going on in here.
In the chat, woman bashing.
Yeah, let me get my
Shame.
on. Let me get my sister on here. Let me get my sister.
And
I gotta.
not men bashing. So, brother, you need to chill out and take and listen because you may be able to strengthen your relationship with your woman. Ain't no telling, back in the day they had men when they would had put us in put our people in the projects under the project. The women had to hide the clothes when they come around to do an inspection. At that point in time, our people didn't know they were home in their own land and they was going for that.
And let me tell you the behavior that I noticed, like on YouTube, and like period. Because I work in the mental health field part time, and one of biggest characteristic of most of these abusive males or abusive men is the fact that they'll hurry up and attack a woman. They'll get mad at their homeboy and go home and attack their woman. But then, like when a man can just stomp all over them and they're cowards. So what do we think about that?
They have low self esteem. They are very their vibrations and they're vibrating super doggone low, and they have been brainwashed awfully bad, terribly. They've been brainwashed to the point that they need something to make them feel big, but they will not buck up to another man, so they have to come home and make themselves feel big and mighty by abusing a woman, whether it be with words or whether it be with their hands or whatever it be, you
That's right.
know.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, Sister Dominique Itiba. Halito, sister.
But we have spent a lot of time. We have spent a whole
Halito,
lot of time.
Halito.
We have spent a lot of time petting the men's egos, feeding their egos. And
Facts.
right
Facts.
now, it's not the time for the ego thing. So everybody they need to just stand down and stop ego tripping, because every time when they get out here in the world and they get to mingling and they start picking on their males, who do they run to? They come to auntie. They come to the so-called wife. They come to the mama. Y'all come help me. This happened to me. That happened to me. And there we are. We the ride or die. That's what we call ourselves, the ride or die. We be they ride or die. But as soon as they
And
get out of their little stuff, as soon as they get out of their little stuff, then they ready for us to pat our ego. So they want to blame us. They want us to take full responsibility. But
they want
you
us to
can't
take care of them, because now we're
yeah,
not just taking care of them financially. We're not just taking care of their egos, mentally and spiritually. We're taking care of them the whole 9 yards. And so we have to stop, we have to stop putting pacifiers in their mouth and allow them to become men. Because a lot of this is our faults, because we sit back and like, regardless of what we've been through and all the pain that we've been through, we put their pain, we put them ahead of ourselves. We're kept like they're bashing us, and we're careful about how we approach them and careful about how we speak to them, but they're not keeping our same feelings in consideration.
they've been damaged just like we have.
That's right. That's right. And we
They've
got
been damaged. We gotta get some understanding. And what they say, understanding is the best thing in the world. And without understanding, you can't do nothing. So we have to sit down and get an understanding, because a lot of times we go out there and we would do things and we would build them up. We would do things and give them credit for the things that we did to make them feel good. That was some of the stuff, that was some of the efforts that we did. Now we just have to sit down with them, and we're gonna have to have a conversation and get to and come to an agreement. We're gonna have to get back on that line, just like Phoenix was saying yesterday. We need to resolve all these certificates and all this bull crap. And you, because those certificates and all those papers that the government, the whatever the gave our people, that made them feel like you would treat us like we were property, and we're not property. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, if my man is down and he need me to kind of pull things. I believe in that Bonnie and Clyde relationship. That's what I believe in. But
that's
that paper sure did mess up a lot of things. So those papers, some signatures, I say the first place to start sending some signatures or whatever we need to do to resolve them certificates and take control of that.
that's
But we
right.
got to start somewhere. So what y'all say?
I agree. I agree. Ladies, we got Sister Dominique here. I'm so happy she got to join us today. Dominique,
Hello, sister.
I'm here.
go ahead and drop it one time for the mind, honey.
Yeah, so I just came in, so I'm just listening to y'all right now.
Yeah, Sister Dominique, she's a very deep sister. I respect a lot of the information. She's always rooting for her sisters. And she definitely not afraid to clap back at these aggressive brothers that don't know how to treat ladies. You know what I'm saying? And I always hold her down, and I do respect that. Um, Again, you got some wonderful brothers in the chat. You know what I'm saying? And this one brother, he just expressed that um things didn't change until he did. And that's a man that knows what he been through, and he recognized whatever mistakes he made, and he was able to salvage his relationship. And it looked like they still going on strong. I appreciate you for saying that, brother. and even, um putting it out there, because that's not something that other brothers are willing to discuss. But I really want to thank you for sharing that with us. I definitely want to thank you for that.
And shout out, because this doesn't apply to all men, because there are some good men out there. There are some great men out there. Shout out to the men who concentrate on being their wife or their girlfriend's best friend. Shout out to the men who
Yes.
are out there taking care of their children. Shout out there to the men who are out here defending and protecting the women, whether it be your mother, your sister, your grandmother, your aunt, or the neighbor next door. Shout out to you men, because you're real men.
That's right.
I agree.
That's
I
right.
concur.
There go my sister right there. Hi, Twenty. I see you in the chat, baby. I had to give you the wrench. There she go. Okay, sister. Oh, I'm sorry, ladies. Go ahead. I'm sitting there typing and talking to my sister. I had to give her the moderator. So I'll be one more set of eyes on that the blame buckets that's in here. So we got a couple of events coming up. I definitely want to shout out to Trauma Hawk. I'll post a flyer on my Facebook and I'll send the link. We're gonna be in a couple of cities dropping that Aborigine stuff that we need to hear. Definitely give a shout out to him. First city I believe is gonna be Escondido, California. Also be in Vegas, and will also be in North Carolina in Charlotte too. But definitely shout out to them. I'll drop the links in the chat. Anybody's interested, if you're in these areas, go show them brothers some love. They put me down for the Aborigines. Also, I want to shout out to the beautiful sisters on the panel, and for having this conversation. This is only going to be part one. We're going to have part two, and we're going to have part three. And then I'm even looking, I don't have a problem to have the brothers on, and let the brothers say what you need to say to us. It's a healing story for us and correction. Um, with that. It's gonna be,
Phoenix,
uh,
you're breaking up really bad. I can't hear you. I don't know if like everybody has their mic on mute, but I cannot hear you.
is that better? Is that better?
Yeah, I can hear you. Everybody can hear.
Okay.
Yeah,
Everybody else can hear
it's
me?
better now.
Okay. All right. So, like I was saying, this is going to be part one of this particular topic, because we definitely going to move on, and have a part two and part three and get some other perspectives from different sisters. But I'm really glad to have the ladies on the panel. Of course, I want to shout out African Americans Ain't African. They still going strong, still putting out that dope content. And some of the brothers in the chat room, it's cool to see that y'all are dialoguing with us and, respecting some of the things that we're talking about right now. I do appreciate that. That's respect. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Communication. Communication. And Dominique, did you have anything you wanted to add, sister? We've been sparking for quite some time now. You can certainly have your moment. I know you had some points you wanted to make and things that you wanted to discuss as well.
Oh, I mean, whatever y'all want to talk about. I just came in, so I don't know like what exactly y'all were discussing before I got here. So
We're
I
just
don't.
we're talking about relationships and basically how the men, what we need from them to support us, and a lot more of the endeavors, certainly turn down the aggression and the violence, explaining to the brothers we definitely not their enemy. We are absolutely not their enemy.
Phoenix, like you sound very, very far away. Like I don't know if like everybody has their mic on mute or whatever, because it could be picking up other people's mics. But you sound like very far away. I can barely hear what you're saying.
Can everybody hear me in the chat room? Press one if you can hear me. BCFC, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. At times, it gets choppy. Sometimes, like depending on if you have your headset on, if it touches another cord, or if you move around, sometimes it'll get choppy. But
Okay, is
like,
that better?
yeah, you're great. You sound great now.
Okay, okay. So again, like I was saying to Dominique, sister, we basically was just dropping a little snippets on these brothers, letting them know how we feel about things. We showed a clip from the movie Claudine, regarding the welfare system. Back in the days, of course, that was a black exploitation movie. I think it was 1973 or 1974. Actually, I'm going to drop the link for the clip inside the chat. Um, and we have a couple of brothers in here sharing some of their experiences with how, they changed their lives and it changed their relationship. And I think that was very bold of them to express that, and I do appreciate that.
Yeah, that's awesome because it's few and far to me. I mean, from what I've seen and just talking to other women, there's few and far decent men, you know. So
Mhm.
those who have changed, their life around the way the behavior, things like that, like kudos to you.
Absolutely. There is a topic that I did want to talk about. Maybe, and I think we need to discuss this. Some of the ladies and I have been discussing this earlier in the week, and we think that it is appropriate to make a presentation to our people in regards to arranged marriages.
Yeah,
Arranged marriages. We all have generational friends, you know. For instance, and this is something that completely skipped over us, but this is something that we probably should have considered. Um, for instance, my grandmother's friends that she came up to New York with from Virginia, they were her childhood friends, and they were or her those parents of those friends were friends with my great grandmother, right? And then all of my grandmother's children, which is my mother and my uncles and aunts, they have friends that grew up with my grandmother's friends. And I grew up, my cousins grew up with all of their children. I have grown children, adult children now, and the same thing. Our children grew up together. So we have about 6 generations um, of family friends. And never once have we considered possible suitors within a family of people that we actually know what they're about. We know what their bloodlines about. We know how they raise their children, how they rear their children. We know what type of men and women come out of their camp and out of their families. And that might be something that we consider. That may be something that we consider. I think a lot of at least you know what your daughter's going to get. If she's dealing with a friend of the family's son, then he's going to be less reluctant to put his hands on her or mistreat her because for one, his father, his mother has watched this baby girl grow up, and they're cool with her parents and so on and so forth. And that might be something that we need to look at because I don't know about y'all, but I'm kind of concerned about what type of you know, children, my grandchildren are going to, have for parents outside of
I,
my children. That's kind of
I
scary
totally
to me.
I totally concur with that. And I've been traveling a little bit and I've been looking at some things and I'm seeing how some people have done things and they have kept things on track. They have gotten out, they have gotten areas and they have just totally went private as families. I've traveled and I see whole unincorporated areas and that unincorporated areas of this group of circle of people, that community was a group, a circle of people and they kept their shit locked. Excuse me, I don't mean to say that they kept their things locked, tied, and close knit in that community, and that's where you're getting your successful people coming up, supporting each other because we have been so separated with all the mind effort that we have failed to be supportive to each other, and as our men, even our children, have got out here and tried to mix and mingle into this society the way it is today. uh, they have not been able to. They will be able. I'm not going to speak of negativity. They will have to learn again how to savor those ties and get back. And when I looked out, and I traveled around and I looked and see how these people are doing business on the private side, how they handle their business private. You may have up on the hill, you may have somebody that's doing all the building. They have the big house, and then in that family may be somebody that has some drug addicts, some problems, or what have you. They are
Right.
off over here. They still in that community, but they are pretty good ways away. But they still able to be able to control what's going on in that community, and they out on the countryside. So I don't know why our people want to stay stuck into the metro areas. We got to come out of those metro areas and get together and start building our communities. Get private and that way we can kind of bring this thing back home. Because when you get out like that, you are required for your survival. You have to work together as a family. When you
That's
come
right.
out of that metro area and that inner city and that get in those unincorporated areas, you don't have a choice but to work together as a family
Yes, I
for your survival.
I live in an unincorporated area, and I love it. Okay, now here's the thing. Uh, often you want to invite, your other family members and things like that from the cities to, like back home to the unincorporated areas. And that's all fine. But look, the thing that I tell the people that are coming from the corporated areas, from the cities, is don't bring that same attitude with you. Don't bring the gangs, don't bring the drugs, and don't bring the violence,
That's right.
because in a lot of the unincorporated areas we don't have that. And like I've had cousins that came from the city, and like nobody in the area, you could basically leave your door unopened, unlocked, and nothing was happening. And as soon as they came, they started, breaking in people's houses and stealing, and everybody knew who it was. And the fact that our family had always had, an upstanding reputation, and then now here it is, we have to deal with this. So, like, yeah, yes, most families, and most of your families that are in, the country, as we call it, yes, we would love for our family to come home. There's nothing like family, but make sure you don't take, some of those bad habits with you.
But you know what? Sometimes you know how we used to get back down in the day, and we used to keep everything in the family. There wasn't no dialing, no 911. Yeah, some certain ones had to whoop that ass. Now I just gotta put it just like it is, because sometimes there's certain ones that say, "Now you know you was wrong," and then you have that ass whooped. Now I saw that on many of days, and that's when they start calling. Look at them Indians down there. Now you, when you them Indians down there. That's what they used to say about our family. Them Cherokees down the road. Yeah, the police used to
Right,
come to our house.
right.
Different ones would get out of line, and I had big brothers, and big brothers would spank some ass.
Right.
And I've had to put, like, like a couple of my cousins and stuff off the property, and I hated that with all my heart. But I mean, when it comes down to you talking to them and trying to get them to do better, then like they don't hear that. So you're pushed to that point, because in unincorporated areas you don't have the law enforcement. The sheriff can only come
Right.
to your place if you call them, or if they have a warrant. And so, like, and you hate, like we're saying, we don't want to call the cops on anybody, but if I keep telling you or keep talking to you and I ask you to stop and you don't stop, sometimes you leave no other choice. And this goes back to this one little quick thing that I want to say, then I'm going to go back on mute. Like, men sometimes, like, just like Big Mama had to do to all of us, Big Mama sometimes had to get in your butt. You know what I'm saying? And so why wouldn't you, like, sometimes a woman that challenges you makes you the best person that you can become. So like, it ain't, so sometimes a woman have to get in your butt, and don't take it like, oh, this and oh, that, and you running out, oh, or a woman can't tell me what to do. A lot of times when a woman gets in your butt, it's because they want to see you do better.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And for the most part, a
For them was
man's
nasty.
ambition and a lot of things that he excels in is because of the women that's in his ear telling him he can do it. It's because of the encouragement that he receives from the sister that's by his side. I don't know if there's anybody that could really debate with that.
Facts. Behind every strong man is a strong woman. And and with every strong woman, with every strong woman, there's some type of strong man, whether it be the
That's right.
father, your uncle, your brother, somebody. We need each other. And not, and not just like in terms of romance, as
That's right.
people.
That's right. That's right. I agree. I agree. Sister Dominique, you jump in there whenever you want to, sister. You got something to throw out there or put out there or present. Certainly, go for it.
Yeah, definitely. I could barely hear you, but I heard you say my name. So, um, I mean, I think it's one thing to say, like, to the people living in the city, don't bring, the city type of environment or whatever to the country or to the unincorporated towns and things like that. But there's stuff that goes on in the country too. I have family in the country and I have family in the city. And I think that we have to, as females, address the issue from a deeper standpoint than just saying, don't bring that stuff, because a lot of our people are dealing with, mental issues, which, those stem from spiritual issues and things like that. So it's a lot deeper and it has to be addressed. Like I saw someone in the chat say we need healing, and that's the truth. Both the males and the females need healing, because I'm seeing both sides, just partake in craziness. That live and those that live in the country too. There's plenty of people in our communities who have, been molested and been raped, or, been physically abused, or, deal with all types of stuff. It's not just a city thing. So I think those issues really, really need to be addressed. And but a lot of our people have to let go of ego in order to address those issues. Like someone just said, you can't, the men need to be willing to listen to the women, because a lot of times the women are reprimanding them because they want them to be better. So, our people have to let go of the egotistical stuff and begin, addressing the root of the problem, because it's too many generational curses that are allowed to persist for years and years and years and years. Like somebody has to stop the cycle. And if we're talking about arranged marriage, that's being done in hopes of stopping the cycle. But family friend or not, people have problems, so those things have to be addressed too, because I know, family friends that I wouldn't want my child to be with any of their children. So it's just like, I think people really need to address the root of the issue. And I understand familiarity being a thing, and that's great too. But if the person's parents are a certain type of way, or their mindset is a certain type of way, and you see certain types of behaviors in your child, then it's like, do you really want to do that? The whole point of us even bringing up arranged marriage is to stop these generational curses from continuing, and to stop the pain from going on. So we have to be very mindful of healing that's needed for our people all across the board. And I think that's something that definitely needs to be done on both sides, male and female.
Facts. I agree. I agree.
Some things has to run its course, because it's not like you can just make
Anna, you're breaking up really, really bad. I can't hear you.
Okay, for the time being, Empress, you're breaking up.
it's like he said just comment yesterday.
Empress, your sound completely went out. I'm unable to hear you. Um, yeah, her sound completely went out. But again, to touch on Dominique's point, I absolutely agree. There are some families that you don't want no parts of. You don't want no parts of. That is absolutely true. Um, Certainly, going back to the rural living and things like that, and us being a lot more communal. I tell you, because the healing is not going to happen in just one generation. Some of the things that we're building for and doing right now, we may not even be alive to see the fruits of it at all. Right now, we're just setting the precedent, and we're the forerunners to make sure that the generations ahead have something else besides dust that's handed down to them. Something else besides these crazy stories, um, you know, and these crazy ideologies on how to treat each other based on relationships from the oppressors and occupiers, you know. I think that's going to be really important. So a lot of stuff we're not going to be able to see, but for some of the things that we can change, it's very imperative that we do. Very imperative that we do.
Right. There's something that somebody brought up in the chat that I do want to talk about. We kind of talked about it a bit. Um, Hypersexualization. They were talking about how people in this society are very hypersexualized. Um, that's true. A lot of these people, women complain about the men being hypersexual, but I've seen plenty of women who are hypersexual. They don't want to, you know, deal with that. They don't want to really talk about that. But I think that women need to start waking up and, learning who they are. I don't know who's talking or who's not. I can't hear nobody, but I see your logo thing, Phoenix. So I don't know what's going on. I hope we're not talking at the same time. I don't want to talk over you.
No, I'm not speaking. I wasn't speaking at all.
Oh, okay. Um, but I wanted to address the hypersexualization. There's plenty of people in the comments that were saying like, a lot of people are quick to just jump into somebody's bed, and then expect for this person to be a certain type of way. And I definitely agree with that. A lot of the men and women are very hypersexual. A lot of them don't want, again, with addressing the root of the issue, why are you hypersexual? People think that, molestation and things like that only makes women hypersexual, but that makes men hypersexual too. You know what I mean? So that the culture, everybody's constantly being bombarded with like these images and, subliminals and things like that, to where it's like, it's kind of hard for people to, at least the people who want to form a genuine relationship, it's kind of hard for them to, because there's so many people that are messed up and very like conditioned to think a certain way. And I think that women, if the women definitely started standing firm in, their standards and giving, letting their standards be known, and not just going out and laying out with whoever, whenever, and then expecting for the person to be worth something, then I think a lot of things will change. I think, of course, that the men are going to, probably try to, brush up, fight against it or whatever, because we've been allowing, especially, indigenous women in the United States have been allowing so much things to go on. Like, we allow men who don't even have like a job to live off of us. And I haven't come across too many women outside of this country who will do something like that. So we really allow like almost everything from men. And it's because we as women do not know our worth, and we don't know, the power that we really have. So that's something that really needs to be addressed. I remember posting a status and I said, I'm seeing a lot of women complain online about, what they call fuck boys or whatever. But at the end of the day, you guys are still sleeping with these type of men. The responses I got from most of the women on that post was, oh, but they have good dick. They got the best dick. So it's like, if you're thinking like that, then don't expect to come across a man worth anything. You're going to come across somebody who just wants to screw you and then throw you to the side. I mean, that's just common sense. You are attracting people that's on your frequency. So if that's how you do, if that's how you are, then don't expect anything more. And
Preach,
stop giving,
sister.
yeah, these women, like, they give these men so much. Like, there's this like family friend who, she, allowed a man to live in her house and was like, if we get married, my house is your house, and this and that and this and that. And the man didn't have to work for anything. And now she's sad and depressed and drinking and all of this stuff because he left. Men don't value things they don't have to work for. Men are competitive by nature. Men are physical beings. They have to work for something. If they don't work for it, they're not going to appreciate it. So women
Yes,
need to understand that.
yes, preach, sister. And it's just like this. self-worth. That's one of the most important things that we can talk about as women. Like, she's not saying that it's all a woman's fault, but you're allowing it. We're allowing it. And we have to stop allowing this behavior that is going on. Just like, when you see a man being abusive, or picking on, or beating up on another woman, don't join in. We have to stop the sister on sister self-hatred. You gotta, if you don't, first of all, love yourself, you're not capable of loving anyone else. So it starts with you. You gotta love yourself. You gotta find your own self-worth. And if a person can't, a person is only gonna treat you the way that you allow yourself to be treated. So if you're allowing yourself to be treated like an animal, or then that's how you view, that's how you looked at, and that's how you're gonna be treated. So sometimes when you run across, like, it's like the cycle of abuse. Normally, a person who's been abused as a child, if they don't get help and they don't find healing, they end up marrying or getting into other abusive relationships, and so on with their children. And at some point, that cycle has to stop. And it starts with finding self worth and realizing that you deserve.
But when we talk about it, I don't know if y'all can hear me or not. Can you hear me?
It's a
Can
little,
anybody can
but
anybody hear me? Can
We
anybody
can
hear
hear
me?
you. We can hear you. You break up from time to time. I think you hit a bad spot before.
Okay, I'm about to pull in my driveway now. I was traveling, but when we come to talk about that, once we come up out, once we get private and we start building our communities like we had once before, then when you look back at the way Big Mama did things and Papa didn't have problems and Big Mama and Papa stayed together forever, like my sister and her husband didn't even get married until a year before he passed on. They had 6 kids, and all the kids was grown and out of the house before
breaking up really badly.
even got married. The whole
I'm not able to see to hear at all.
time they was
Me
together.
either.
They
Empress,
stuck
you're
together like
Empress Anna. You're
glue, and
breaking
they
up.
worked together. And he realized that he was not the one that had the education. He realized that he wasn't good with the finances. He realized that what you buy. Something. Hold on. Okay. 1 minute.
You're breaking up, Empress. But I'm
Yeah.
gonna just chime in right quickly. Yes, like, one of the things I noticed that we do as the people is we allow other people to define us. And we have to stop doing that, and we have to define ourselves. What that means is, if you're an artist and that's what, your passion, don't let somebody else tell you that, you were supposed to be a maid. You be that artist and you be the best that you can be, because you're going to be happy doing that. And don't allow somebody else to tell you you're supposed to do this and you're supposed to do that. And then let's go back to the relationships as it relates to it. We have to learn that not everybody is compatible. And we're gonna have to learn how to find people that are compatible to us.
That's
Because,
it.
like, just because it's a male and y'all can talk, and y'all cool as friends or whatever, doesn't mean that you're gonna be compatible in terms of a romantic relationship. And so we're gonna have to start slowing down, taking our time, and start learning that we deserve, better relationships with each other. Even as a friend, you deserve a good friendship, a good friend. Like, if you have a friend and they're downing you or different things like that, then we have to start learning that that friend is unhealthy for me. And then a lot of times, some of the people or some of the things, situations that, we encounter are unhealthy for us. So we have to say that that's unhealthy for me at this time. And you have to be willing to, part ways and look for what is healthy for you.
Right. I concur with that.
That's right. Agreed. Absolutely agreed. Absolutely agreed.
And not everybody, you're right. Not everybody just need to right. And now is a very crucial time for our people, and they just don't understand how crucial it is, and that we determine how fast, how what rate of speed that this whole thing goes as far as us being taking our place, and our children, being able to rule this place and handle this ship. But it's all goes back to they need the education. They have been miseducated in the school system. You gotta go because of miseducation, and you gotta bring back the relevance of the bloodline. The bloodlines are important. They for a long time they were taught that bloodline was nothing about bloodline. But look at the successful beings and everything they've done. They operated on bloodline. Now our bloodline is very super important as to who we are and where we come in with what's going on. But it has to start with the information because they've had so much misinformation. They have, and now the deprogramming has to start, and we have to start deprogramming them. And before we can even teach them these things, the correct way to do things, we have to deprogram them. But you got a lot of them now that's waking up and they're understanding. I deal with a lot of college students that's realizing that they're being misinformed and they're looking for the correct information. People want to be selective as to what they teach our children. And our children like, okay, let me peep this. Something just not right. You'd be surprised how many how many young people have come to me say, Nana Woo, something is not right. Something is not right. I just feel like some secrets is being kept and blah blah blah. And then they find out that they have parents that's been involved in these secret societies and these masons and this Masonic order and all this kind of stuff. And they are coming and they're like, okay, now something is wrong with that picture. Something is wrong with it. They're waking up. They are waking up in grows. And as they wake up in grows, we have to be ready to be able to answer their questions and give them solutions. But in doing so, we have to also be ready to pull them out of the environment that they're in, get them trained, and so they can be able to rule the world.
Yes, and I'm sorry, Dominique. Well, go ahead, Dominique. I'll wait till you finish.
Oh no, you can go ahead.
It goes back to like culture. We have to sort of get back to culture because like when we were Indians, when we were running around and we were tribal Indians, we had a system that works. Okay. And so we're not America, don't get me wrong, America is not yet colonized. But when these colonizers came over here, they indoctrinated us to their way. And that includes patriarchy because we were matriarchal, you know. Okay, so and their way is not and has not worked for us, and we have to wake up and realize that. So now it's time to challenge,
Yeah.
because a lot of times what I say is, and don't let me offend anyone, whatever you believe is what you believe, but it's just this way. Okay, we have to start challenging what we believe. And a lot of the ways of religion teaches puts you in a box of thought. And it does not allow you to expand outside of that box in terms of knowledge.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that religion does is don't question God. Well, how are you going to know if you believe in God if you don't ever question God? And religion has a lot of instructions and do's and don'ts. Well, how are you going to know your full potential if you do not, if you do not like, if you don't explore and experience and question and challenge yourself? So, like we're going to have to start looking at a lot of things that we've been taught, and a lot of stuff we're going to have to go ahead and throw in the trash, and we're going to have to start all over again.
Yep.
And in terms of doing the research and looking back at my Indian culture, my childhood culture, I grew a great appreciation, and I also saw how a lot of things were passed on to me. And by knowing my grandparents, I instilled a lot of pride in me, to make me know that, okay, I can do this. I can do that. And this is not against the rules. And this is not against the rules. And why are they telling me I can't do this when my forefathers and foremothers did this? You know,
Right.
so a lot of the stuff we're going to have to get rid of, and we're going to have to rebuild, and we're going to have to start looking at what works. Because how are we going to go to our full potential when we placed our own we place limitations on our own selves?
Yeah. That's very true. And I think it goes back to also what you were saying about, creativity and doing, like, if you feel that you're an artist, don't let someone tell you something different. We have to think with, I don't know if it's the left or the right side of the brain that deals with creativity, but we have to start thinking outside of the box. We have to start engaging in critical thinking. And, we're so bombarded with like these images on media, through various forms of media, social media, all types of media, to where we're being honestly conditioned to think a certain way, or to think this is cool, or to think this is right, or to think this is acceptable. We have to start challenging everything. And there are people out there that are, helping. And I'm seeing a lot of females out there that are offering, classes and things to help deprogram and to help teach, indigenous consciousness, and how, you know, we used to operate, and teach just who you are. Do you know yourself? Things like that. Do you know what type of cycles are repeating in your family? Things like that, and where it comes from, and how to break those. And so there are people out there that are doing it. So I think that was a great thing that Anna brought up, about the education, because that's definitely needed. And I think in regards to the education, it's really hard when we are sending our children to, and I understand a lot of people don't have help, so it's like that's the only option they have. But it's really hard when we are sending our children to these colonist schools, and they are learning one way, and then you're coming back home and you're trying to teach them another way. I remember coming across some information that said it only takes 13 years to program somebody. And when you think about it, from kindergarten on to high school, that's 13 years, if I'm not mistaken. So,
Right.
um, it's, we have to start educating our children again, and we have to start educating our people again, because it's a lot that we're up against. It's not, it's food, it's education, it's media, it's economics. It's a lot that it's the environment. They're destroying our environment, environmental racism. Just they're colonizing the entire planet. It's not just the people, it's the planet. They're destroying our environment, and we have to understand that we are connected to our environment. We're connected to our land. So when they even destroy our land, that's destroying us. Everything that they touch, that they destroy, affects us. And we have to understand that we are all one, and we're part of this earth. We're part of, it's a bigger picture. And I feel like when we can get that understood, and we can teach that, and start, like Anna said, deprogramming, then that will also help to make better children and better people, because a lot of people just do stuff out of ignorance and they don't know.
Hmm. And I have another suggestion because, like, they threw those community centers up for these kids to go to after school, and they send them their little lunches and everything. We need to step to these cities and these places and be able to go in and educate our children in these community centers, because that's where they're at there after school until their parents come home. They need to learn after they. Some of the parents are sending their kids out to these schools because they have to work. Some are sending their children out to these schools because some of them don't have the kind of food that a kid goes through all day long at home eating. So a lot of the parents are just absent out there in the rat race, just trying to make it for their kids. So we will all have probably been through that at one time or another. And not all parents are ready to be able to even have the education themselves to educate their children. Not all. But as a village back in time, we work with kids. I may not have, my mother didn't even, I taught my mother to read. I taught my mother to read. And so having said that, now I mean, my grandchildren are having to come because they have some stubborn parents, and I'm having to sit them down on a Sunday bill and get these books out and teach my grandchildren so the grandchildren can go back and teach their parents. And I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, well, now we need to go into the community centers, and that's a place to look at, because you believe it, children learn from other children too. And I'm dealing with a lot of parents now that the children are getting put into these what are these schools? They call them bad schools, but it's another name for it. And because charter school, yeah, charter schools, and also those other schools where they have this other bus to come and get them and take them to this school because they feel like they had a problem with them in the school. A lot of those kids, I'm finding, they just refuse to be taught lies. Some of those children just say that you're not going to teach me these lies. Yeah, and I know that what she's telling me is incorrect. It's not. It's incorrect. And I have to have some parents that come to me and say, you know, this child got a bad grade on this, and we looked up the information, and we got the answer, and the teacher has having a problem because he does not fall up. This child does not follow their program, and they plan to dumb them down. Not all our children want to be dumbed down with this foolishness, but we just got to come up with a plan. We got to come up with some solutions. What to do about with these children, because that's where it's going to all start with the children.
Yes, and then we have some great, when we start researching and going back into our American history, we realize that we have some great history, especially when it comes down to Mayan and all of the things that was created over here. But instead, what we have taught our children is that they are descendants of slaves. So in another way to put that, we're saying that you're meant to be a slave, that you were created to be a slave. So when you tell a child that, what do you think they're going to be?
Well, the system is right now trying to the whole system right now. What they're doing in their school system now is they are programming all other children to be slaves. They are programming them all to be slaves. That's what they're trying to do. And the thing of it is, we have to, just like I said, we need to get private, get our kids up out of these systems, and prepare a place for our people. We got people like Omar Johnson. He went out there and he did some F shit, with the school thing. Okay, we get that, and that feared up a lot of people. They don't want to try to build anything. But once these families come together and they start getting private and they get the correct information, and then they have to have a way to have their life where they are producing and they are doing they're employing, and instead of being the employee, they be the employer. Instead of them waiting on a check, they write the check. Once that happens, they're gonna want to keep that status, and when they want to keep that status, they gotta have certain knowledge in order to keep it.
I'm glad you said that, sister, because, speaking of Umar Johnson in the school, I graduated from a all melanated private boarding school. That was great, and great. That was great. I mean, they still had to follow certain curriculums or whatever, but they stepped outside the box, at times. So I consider my education to be great, and the reason I'm saying this is because people make it seem as though we don't already have some of these organizations and things out there. Just like tribes. My all melanated tribe still exists. It's a bunch of tribes that merged together, and it's all melanated. So basically what we have to realize is sometimes we have to actually go back in and we have to help, these that go back and help that school, or go back and help that tribe, instead of just saying, oh, we don't have this stuff, or instead of looking at it like, okay, well, we got to reinvent and recreate the wheel. Sometimes we got to take what we already have and revamp it, renovate it, remodel it to make it
Exactly.
fit what we need it to be.
Exactly.
Right.
Because all these children, even those other kids, they sick of this mess. They want to know the truth too, and that's why they went pulling down statues and going off like that, because they're like, man, y'all done taught us all these lies, and now we waking up to all these lies, and once you uncover one lie, cover some more lies, and then that's where you find out who the thieves are. Scratch a lie,
That's right.
find the thief. So that's the whole root of it, is the education. But they already got the facility set up, because we're talking about solutions and we're talking about our men too. So we need to go in and because our young little boys, they're gonna go up to be men, and we don't want them to be some of the kind of men that we've had to deal with our daughters. So we need to go off into these community centers and start spending some time educating. It's all about education and teaching them how to think outside the box. And you're absolutely right on that, thinking outside the box. The buildings are already there. The establishments are already there. These agencies, these government agencies, we can't be afraid to step to them anymore, saying, "Look, hey, we know who we are. This is our,
Facts.
and we're doing this. We're doing A, B, C, D, E, and F."
That's
You
right.
know, we have to do it. We got to do it. We got to step to it and say, "We're doing A, B, C, D, E, and F. This is what we're doing."
That's right.
And we got to take cousin Ray Ray. Look at Chicago. Okay, those are our cousins. I know I got a lot of cousins that I don't know that are in Chicago. We got, instead of us like depending or waiting on the government to do something, steady crying out for the government to do something because they're not going to do it. We got to start saying, okay, let me go tell cousin Ray Ray, that he needs to put the gun down. If you just got to go to war with each other, bring back fist fighting, fighting
Get
because
out
at
there
least
and
both of you
fight.
live to tell the story. You know,
Get in the
stop.
backyard. That's right.
Stop. Like, we got to take active parts in things that we need to correct instead of waiting on some government to do it. Just like I am so disappointed in a lot of these YouTube channels, just like I said, they'll talk actively, re-victimizing people, LGBT people who probably been molested, but they won't speak on, even though they've had the opportunity with Bambada. And I'm saying some of the people, even people honor, like Elijah Muhammad. We all know that those women were underage. Sometimes, but they won't speak on that. They won't speak on the fact of, like, these men or these women out here molesting young underage children and the effects of what child's mind. That messes up that child's ability to trust. Like, if you've been molested, like, by uncle such and such or cousin such and such, how do you think you're gonna view, like, how do you think you're gonna grow up and view the rest of the people in society? You're gonna have trust issues across the board. So that is mentally. And if you've seen mama get beat, or if you've seen your auntie get beat, or if you've been beaten yourself as a child, how do you think that child is going to grow up? And
Right.
we as a people, in terms of the cycles that continue, one of the biggest problems that when you look back, it has always been happening, and we sweep it under the rug. We never address it, and therefore the problem has continued.
And it gets worse. I was just speaking with someone about that the other day. I also spoke with Phoenix about that. Our communities here in the States, a lot of our people are dealing with hypervigilance, and that's a symptom of post traumatic stress disorder. They're very, extremely paranoid, non trusting of each other, very jumpy, and it's just a lot of mental issues that they're dealing with. Like you said, they want to talk about gay whatever, but they don't want to talk about the family member or family friend or whoever, mom's boyfriend who's molesting, the child. These are issues that need to be addressed. I recently went to see my great grandmother, and she told, my mom how her mother at one point beat her hand so bad that her bones were broken, and she didn't even take her to the hospital or nothing. Like, she didn't do anything. She just beat her, and she never really knew why her mom beat her and stuff. And so that was a pattern that I was able to see in my family that persisted. And so, knowing those things and knowing, okay, well, since so and so did this, I'm gonna work to change that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to pass that down. That's how we break cycles. We need to see what exactly is going on in our family that's continuing so that we can work to fix that and we can work to change it and stop it. Because it's too much of the stuff going on, and it's too many people that are seriously damaged because of it. And, our people need healing really, really badly.
And
So,
that's the spiritual, and then you got to attack that on every level. Every level, you got to go to it from the spiritual level. You got to
yeah,
go
Mhm.
to the educational level. You got to
yeah,
Mhm.
attack it from every level. And another thing,
absolutely.
see, we have so many agents out there that has been boulayed up, and Masonic up. Hell, and we also are working. They're putting their hands on our children. That's why this whole thing starts with us building our own communities and building our own schools.
That's
And
Yeah,
right.
I'm just And I'm going to personally say I am a victim of molestation. I am a person that has post traumatic stress disorder as a result of that. I spent a whole lifetime. I'm in my late 40s going into my 50s. A lot of you probably thought I was younger than that, but I'm not. But like I spent the majority of my lifetime trying to find healing. First I had to find out that it was affecting me. Then I had to find out exactly what was affecting me. Then I had to, like a lot of people, they have a problem with going for therapy and things of that nature. But sometimes you need to, because sometimes you can't talk to the person in your family or your friend, and they'll be able to listen and be able to help you come to, like that healing point. So there's nothing at all wrong with therapy. Therapists sometimes seek therapy. So, if therapy is
Right.
something that you need, by all means, go get that. If you came from abuse, go get that therapy, because, you're only going to continue that cycle. And as well, I can speak personally to how it takes a whole lifetime. And what I turned around and done, because, it's like I like my job on YouTube is not to get no AdSense, is not to, be on here to become a personality or anything. I saw an opportunity to be able to help a great number of my people. And and I'm an activist on the ground, on the ground in my community. I've always been that. And one of the things that I do is I'm an advocate for child molestation and sexual abuse and domestic violence. And I speak to an audience and I tell my story. And it never fails. Every time that I've told my story, it's like two or three. And I'm talking about it, not just, melanated people. I'm talking about people of women of all races that have come up to me and said, you know what, I've gone through that too. So this problem is bigger than we even think. And the thing is, we don't see any
Right.
commercials on TV. We don't see anything that's combating it. How many commercials do you see about domestic violence and abuse of children? We see no commercials about that. We
Yeah,
see, it's not they're not actively trying to combat these things. And these are the things that greatly affect our community.
And
absolutely.
that's
And
that's why
that's
we need to get our kids away from that TV completely. We need to take these games out of their hands. We need to let them know that when they're out there on those football fields playing ball, that they just helping somebody keep their jobs. That's what they basically doing. They're helping the coach to live well. And they're out there pleasing and smooth, and they're trying to please everybody and trying to make them smile. But the whole thing, sister, I was molested too as a child, and I'm not gonna say that it had any effect on me like that, because it gave me the inner strength to be able to take care of children, to be able to train kids, to be able to go talk to kids. Because kids that won't talk to their parents, they'll come and then they'll tell me things, and then I have to go back and talk to their parents and get things straightened out. Okay, but in the meantime, sister, we do have that authority where we can change the things and work with what we have. But as far as the TV, the remote controls, and all that stuff, when we deprogram, all that stuff has to go. The TV needs to go.
yes,
We don't really care what they put on their TV program, because they have
right,
controlled the narrative long enough. It's time for us to take the narrative, and we control the narrative as what our kids know, because we have let them control our narrative for too long. That's part of the
right.
mess. We don't
And
need
that's the
nothing from
important
them. We don't need
True.
nothing from them. We just need to build our community.
and that's the
And
importance
not
of the age drip. The A drips gives us, if you,
exactly.
for those people who've read and studied the A drip, some people, we don't need no A drip. What A drip? The A drip gives you the ability, once we go back to self identifying ourselves as American Indian, the A drip gives us the ability to protect and to continue our culture, and to have those things like a network, a television station, a radio station, and things of that nature. Then we need to build our own economics. Not economics through their corporation, but we need to build our own industries. We need to
Right,
produce our own products, so that, like, regardless, they won't be able to starve us out again. They won't,
yep,
because that's a lot of what happened to us in the past. They starved us out, and they put us in positions where, like, we had to almost succumb to them, based on the fact of us being able to eat, or based on us being
yep.
able to survive.
I was just speaking with my grandmother about that. She was telling me, I was talking to her and I was like, I'm trying to find like land deeds or something because I know on both sides there's something. And she told me, well, we have a little bit of land that was left to me and my siblings, and stuff like that. And I said, well, I would love to see it because something can be done and people can be, making a living. You know what I mean? Like, even if one person, or maybe a few people in each state have like good fertile farmland, they can sell the produce to, people in the area. They can sell produce to our people in the area to where they can actually eat real food and not GMO food. You know what I mean? And I think we
Mhm.
need to
Facts.
start thinking like that. We're not thinking like that. And like, um, Anna said with in regards to the media stuff, that like we have to cut that off. We have to cut it off. And I wanted to go back to another thing. I didn't get a chance to touch on that in regards to I think you also mentioned how the children don't want to hear, these lies that they're being taught in school. And that's true. Doctors and things, they tried to say that my little brother is autistic, and just because he knows the stuff, he doesn't want to, be in the classroom. He doesn't want to hear what they're talking about. Like, children's spirits are more like, they're more vulnerable to things, and they're more attached to the spirit realm than older people because they're less damaged. You know what I mean? So they can see and feel when things are not right, when things are not true, and they don't want to sit in the classroom and they don't want to hear those things. Our children can be, if we, have land and things like that, they can be working on the land. That's what my, ancestors on my paternal side did. Their children didn't go to college. Their children worked on the farm. You know what I mean? So these are things that we definitely, need to think about and need to discuss, and, know that there are people out there who are trying to educate in the indigenous way, and that are trying to heal too. Like, that's something that we do with my business. We do focus on healing and things like that and women empowerment. So I love to be a part of this discussion because this is the stuff that's needed for us in order to progress. So I love the points that y'all are bringing up.
And everybody say, what do we start with? How do we do that? What do we get the money to do that? Okay. And I don't want to jump topic, but when those questions are gonna arise, and when people say, okay, well, how are we gonna do this? Where are we gonna get the money from? Okay. Now, when I authenticated my birth certificate and I got it back, it says that I had been granted all full faith and credit. We've been working on the debt side, and a lot of people are ready to work on that credit side, and they don't know steps to it. They don't want to read. Okay, but it's got to be some way. We got to go around and tour and help the people to understand this and understand it, not understand it, but understand this, and help them to be able to do that so they can assemble their families. I get my family assembled. The drug addicts that's in my family, they can stay out there and do their drugs, and if it's a what you call it, a homecoming. Everybody come home and get once a year, whatever they do. If they're not on the land with us, then they will take the route where they won't be able to find it. Because some people I bring to my house, I take them all through the back roads through the country where they'll never remember which way they came. Just bring them the back roads, you
Right.
know.
Facts.
You know, they
And
say, I don't know how to get to your house. Okay, well, I'll come and get you. Maybe you never show up to get them. That means you stay out there, you get through bumping your head, and when you get tired of bumping your head, and then then you done fell down enough times that you're ready to drag your own ass up off that ground and stay up off that ground, then maybe at that point in time, you may be able to join us with some of them. You're going to have to leave them out there in the rain.
That's right.
Yeah, and it starts at home. The first thing we got to realize that you can't be out here preaching to somebody else when you haven't even started within your own home. And like,
Yep.
I work with
Exactly.
my home, I work with my community, I work with my neighbors right next door. When I go out and I'm in the public, everybody I speak to, whether like the insurance lady came to my house, and guess what? I was like, y'all know y'all not African, right? Like that a little conversation like that carries on a long way. So it starts at home. It starts where you're at first. And if people are online trying to tell other people what to do in their home is not yet, if they're not working on their home situation because it does take time, then why are you listening to them? And why do we keep contributing to these organizations that are selling us fake hopes and fake dreams? Log on to my
Mm-hmm.
Patreon. I'm just here to make you broke. All right. And then
All that boule
I'm gonna
shit. That's
build a
that boule
school.
shit.
I'm gonna build a
Boule.
school. And there's some religious organizations that have never done anything for our community. We got to stop giving our money to these same people who are not doing anything for our community, haven't even produced one lemonade stand to even be able to hire one person, yet they're continually asking for our money. We got to start paying more attention to where we put our money, because quite frankly, we're the biggest consumers here in America. And quite frankly, like this economy wouldn't sustain if it wasn't for us. It's as simple sometimes as to solve the problem is boycotting. Numbers make a big difference. And
Right.
and don't let people tell you that don't vote, because you can get a lot from these constituents when they want to get back into office. And like the sister said before, we gotta stop being afraid. I go talk to the political leaders in my community. I'm an activist, and I don't wear a title. Wherever I'm passionate about, if I feel like it needs to there needs to be a change there, I go talk to them. I call them and on the phone from home sometimes, and I'll have a discussion with them about that. And it doesn't matter what background you came from, or anything. Don't stop being afraid to step up to the plate and talk to these people, because a closed mouth won't get fed. And then we got to start investing our money instead of giving it away to people we know consistently are not doing anything for us. Like, no disrespect to anybody out there who's NOI, but what has NOI did for our community? Now, they do things for NOI, but they haven't did anything for our average everyday community. What has all the 500 churches in your community actually done for your community? Anybody
Right.
can feed the homeless. I feed the homeless. If somebody comes to my door and needs something to eat, I'm going to give it to them. You know what I'm saying? Anybody can do that. But it's time for us to like step up. Nobody's going to come in and help us. And we got to realize that we have got to take active parts to help ourselves and to make changes in our community, because nobody's going to do it for us. Why should they? They're concerned about their own selves. They got just as many problems in their community as we have in ours. In ours.
Yes. And I
Well,
think another
one thing
thing in
for a fact,
regards,
we absolutely got to get our own political party. We can't expect the Hispanic caucus to speak for us. The Black caucus can't speak for us. The Democratic Party can't speak for us. The Republican Party can't
Facts.
speak for us. Their constituents are the ones that don't want anything to do with us. So even expecting them to do anything, it's not going to matter. It's not going to count. And that's kind of hustling backwards to even think that they're supposed to. How do you think you don't see any Chinese politicians? You don't see any Korean politicians, but in every city, major city, they have a Koreatown, right? The Bank of America, the street signs change and they got Korean writing all over it in your hood,
yep.
in your town. So it's
Facts.
not matter.
There's
They
a lot.
have
They
people.
have a lot, and they, I know over here where I am, they have like their own Korean church, and they're really building up. But the thing is, they'll put their money together to come
Right.
together and start a business. They'll put their money
Yes.
into a pool. Okay, this person gets 10,000. They'll go and they'll start their business. They save up that money. They put it back into the pool. The next person gets 10,000. They go and start their business. Okay, they put that money back into the pool once they get it. They work together. We don't work
That's
together.
right.
And I
That's
understand
Mm-mm.
right.
that we do need our own businesses and stuff. But when we do have our own businesses, we need to be mindful of good customer service, because there's
That's
Mm-hmm.
right.
businesses that
That's right.
allow
Let me tell
people, and
y'all.
like I would not support them again because
Listen, I bought
their
the
customer service is terrible.
it is, and I'm going to tell y'all the truth. I went out a couple days ago. I think it was Friday, and I had wanted to purchase some books from the people, and there's a little stand. I was out in Manhattan, and the brothers, they had the little stand out there, and I didn't really want the books. It was hot as hell, and I was overdressed. Okay. I thought it was going to rain, but it turned out being 95 degrees outside. And I had a long sleeve shirt on. So when I came out from, the building, they got the book stand out there. I gave the brother my $10 and he got up and left the goddamn table. So I'm like, well, where did he go? He didn't say anything to me. Apparently, he didn't want to give me the book that was on display. I really didn't want the shit. I don't want to read it, but I'm not going to walk away empty handed. And I wasn't just going to give him the $10. So he gets up, but he walks away from the table. He doesn't say, here, hold on to this. Let me go get you a fresh book from out of his car, wherever his car was parked at. He just walked away. So I said to his friend, I said, well, damn, it's been 10 minutes. Where the hell your friend go? Oh, no, ma'am. He didn't run off with your money. He had to go to the car. And, parking in New York City is a little crazy and stuff like that. But not only did he go to wherever the car was parked, the motherfucker went inside of a store and ordered a sandwich. So that 5 minutes turned into about 20 minutes. I'm outside, bacon and eggs. I am so upset. And I said, this is why I'd rather go to Barnes and Noble. Y'all make it really hard for me to
Right.
even show y'all love. Like, this is awful customer service. It's awful customer service. And I didn't want to buy anything from you in the first place. So I
Right.
agree. They got to work on that. He could have said, ma'am, let me go get you a fresh book. My car is parked over here on 41st Street. Whatever, hold this $10. If you could wait a moment. And chances are, if he'd have gave me, put the $10 back in my hand, I'd have took off because I didn't want the damn book nowhere. I really just wanted to spend some money with these brothers. And in my mind, I'm like, shit, they could be out selling crack or snatching pocketbooks and shit. They went out here, they spent their money on some books. Let me get the book from them. I would have gave the book away to somebody or donated it to some because it really wasn't even nothing that I would read. But the point is, I felt compelled to spend my money with these brothers, and they fucking service was shitty as hell. Not only was I out there melting a hot ice cream cone, right? But they really didn't understand why I was so heated.
Wow. And
I
see,
couldn't
that's the
even
thing. It's
Barnes and
like
Noble.
that's highly problematic. I had an experience, I bought something from a soul food restaurant. I don't even eat stuff like that, but I'm like, let me support them, whatever. I'll buy the food. Don't give me a side that I didn't ask for. If you don't have a side, call me and tell me you don't have it, and then be like, would you like so and so? Don't just put something in my plate. So these are things, like you said, they need to learn. And in regards to, business and things like that, like someone else mentioned earlier, we need to bring it back to family.
Yeah,
Like I said, the children, they don't want to hear this stuff in the schools. They can be using, they're not taught to think critically or create in schools. They're taught to listen and obey. So they're not taught to use that other side of their brain. There's no telling what they can come up with. I've seen
that's right.
people, like little children in videos, create electricity out of like mud and something else. You know what I mean? It's just like
Right.
these are different things that can be done if the children honestly were able to be in a situation where they can actually think and don't have to be in a concrete building for X amount of hours a day. I had a friend I was talking to, and she was talking about, even if in your area, you have a homeschool co-op, where one person, they can teach the children, and you pay them X amount of month, instead of wasting money on birthday parties and Christmases and things like that. You can put that money into your child by paying the person who can homeschool them. This one
That's right.
person can homeschool X amount of kids. Maybe this person in this other town can homeschool X amount of kids, or on this street, and things like that. So I think it's a thing of familiarizing ourselves, educating ourselves, and bringing it back to family. I mean, we've had ancestors who, they worked on a farm. Their family members worked on a farm. They all worked on a farm.
Yeah,
That's how they survived.
that's right.
Why don't
That's
we do
right.
those same things? There's people who sew. Okay, well, why don't people
That's
in your
right.
family know how to sew? They can provide clothing for the community. We could start wearing our cultural clothing again.
That's right.
It's just so many different things that can be done that we're not
Absolutely.
really thinking about. We're not using that other side of our brains to think critically and to be, creative and begin creating again. We're picking up other people's cultures a
Right.
lot of times unknowingly, and looking to fit in with people who aren't even us, don't even look like us, just to have something to hold on to, when we have the ability to do so many things. Somebody in the chat said, we have a lot of what we need. We're just not using it. And that's correct. We have people who know how to plant, who know how to, do things. We're redirecting that energy somewhere else, where we
That's
have
right.
to, work for this person because we have to live. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's because we don't support each other. The
That's
Hispanic
right.
community, they support each other. There's so many Hispanic stores in my area now. They even have fucking taco trucks. You know what I mean? So
That's
even if
right.
Mhm.
you have a truck, even if you come together and you and two other family members, if your family members don't want to do it, close friends, and have a business, you know what I mean? Like, and give good customer service. These are things that can be done. It's not that we don't we can't do it. It's that we don't want to do it. We have the money to do it. We spend money on shoes. We spend money on entertainment. We spend hundreds of dollars on Beyonce tickets, hundreds of dollars on, whatever. It's just, we don't really care. We have to care enough about ourselves to do the stuff.
And like you were, I'm glad you brought it to the point of critical thinking, because I want to expound on that. And I'm going to take you back to, I told you that I graduated from a private boarding school, all melanated. It was called Piney Woods Country Life School here in Mississippi. All right. And it's based on income. So if you have kids or anything, and, you want to send them to a institution, look at Piney Woods Country Life School. But let me tell you what I got from Piney Woods that is not taught in all other schools. And that's critical thinking and critical writing classes. I had both critical thinking and critical writing. And those things have been taken out of the school, as well as music education and a lot of other things. And these are the things that help us found upon our spiritual and our creativity, our creative abilities and things of that nature. And this is the one thing in society that we lack as a people.
Absolutely.
We lack critical thinking skills. And this is why a lot of these people on YouTube have been able to pass over these false propagandas, and we pick it up and we run with it and we regurgitate it when it's not true. You have to look at the situation, do your own research, think for yourself. It's okay to listen to somebody. It's okay to, because I learn from everybody. You can learn from a child. You can learn from a tree. You can learn from the grass. You can learn from everybody. But just because they're saying it does not mean that it's true. Do your own research. Think about it. Just like the one question we were saying, self-love. If you ask the average person, who are they? Then you would get so many different answers. Like you would get, I'm a Moor, I'm a Hebrew, you might get what they do for a living right now. But then that's not the answer, because that's not who you are. That's what you do. Who are you?
Yep. Absolutely. And that used to be our strength, thinking critically, thinking creatively. Even when you look, since people love Africa, look over the ocean and see the women that have not the areas that are trying to be like the States, but look at the women who have their colorful necklaces and their clothing and stuff. It's the women that's keeping that culture alive. It's the women that's creating the jewelry. It's the women that are creating the clothing. It's the women that have, even different colors of clay in their hair and stuff like that.
Likewise here. I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but likewise here, the men bash us for us women for sustaining the community. Do we not realize that Big Mama and those women that we talk about that got on welfare, and that that your mama who worked 2 jobs just to keep food on your food in your stomach, and who to keep your school clothes and to keep your school supplies supplied. Do you not realize that they sacrificed a lot to sustain us? And then they talk about, well, the white man gives, women more opportunity. No, it's not. Women are just willing to do anything that it takes to take care of their children. Women don't stop. Women will work a full-time job and go to college.
Right. That's right. Because if the men, and a lot of the men aren't there, they're absent, it's like the women are like the last line of defense. If the women don't protect the children and do whatever she can to provide for the children, then the children are gone. So it's just like women have to, we naturally, that's us. You know what I mean? Naturally, we are protectors. Naturally, we are nurturers. Naturally, we are providers. I mean, that's us. So
we should be hearing a whole lot more praises than we hear people downing your mama, because you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for your mama.
That's right.
Right.
I agree. And as us beginning to trade and stuff like that, I wanted to talk about the incident that happened 2 weeks ago in the beauty parlor of the nail salon in Brooklyn, New York. So the brothers have been bashing the shit out of females for about 2 weeks. And come to find out, the Asians don't discriminate against anybody. The only thing, they just didn't put broomsticks to anybody's grandmother, but they held a Caucasian woman in there captive this week.
Oh, wow.
So and now they shut the shops down in Brooklyn. You know, they have better footage of the video or whatever. And now here it is that it happened to the Caucasian ladies. So the moral to the story is the Asians will put hands and feet on you if you don't pay for your services. They'll jump your ass, they'll lock the doors, and that's the end of that. So
Absolutely.
the brother is talking about the women. Oh, stop spending your money with foreigners. I don't see none of them parking up their BMWs, throw out that goddamn Samsung phone, put that Mercedes somewhere else. They're not going to give back their foreign things. But I also wanted to know which one of them would stay home with the children and invest in their woman while she go and get that cosmetology license.
Right.
Who's
And
going to put up the money or give her the encouragement that she needs to go out and open up her own nail salon? Because
yeah,
that
Or
would have
or
felt
just
better.
do their parts. Or a lot of them are not even just doing their parts. A lot of them are sitting. That same woman that we're talking about is trying to do all of these things. They're sitting at home eating up all the snacks, sitting there playing PlayStation and Xbox every day, while this woman is holding down everything. Let's be
right.
real.
And see, a lot of the women want to start businesses. A lot of the women are doing things on the side, but it's like the men don't support them. Y'all need to go out there and y'all need to really be the main ones working in this society and making the money if y'all aren't gonna farm. If y'all
That's
don't want to build houses and use your masculine energy the way you're supposed to, at least go out into whatever type of corporate building you wanted to go into and make the money so that we can have a fucking business, so that we can provide services on a bigger scale
that's
to
right.
our people. It's
That,
that simple. So do
Facts. How many of those brothers raised? How many of those brothers raised a PayPal donation to help open up a nail salon in that same community? Because that just as well could have been done as well.
and they'll just it's easy to ridicule the women and to stop spending their money with the foreigners and blah blah blah. But they talk about you if your nails ain't done. They talk about you with your natural hair, but then they talk about the weaves too. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't. If you groomed and then they look at the European woman and talk about how, oh, she's a bad bitch. You see what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah. I
It's
don't date. I don't date sisters because they have attitudes or this or that. But how many times coming up as a child, see, women get criticized or ridiculed as a first thing you show your picture. Next thing you know, you got people. You ugly. You fat. You too dark. You this.
right.
You that. What do you
Right.
think that's doing to the woman's self-esteem? So when this
Right.
woman is wearing weave and this woman is wearing nails or this
Yep.
woman has low self-esteem, how did you contribute to that?
That's
right.
right.
And
Wait a
they
minute.
want to
Did you
put
guys
like
see
somebody.
that the contribution is when they send them women down to the Dominican Republic to go get their butt done. Now they paying for Dr. Miami to enhance their woman's boobs and stuff like that. Right? Now these women is getting butt injections of cement and silicone put in their ass that damn near kills them so they can have the Kim Kardashian. They
Mhm.
laughed at us before with our big wide hips, and now they putting collagen, getting injections so
Mm-hmm.
they can be full like ours. So the same features that these niggas told us was ugly, they like to see it on a white woman. They
Right.
like
And
to
And
how?
the
see it on
thing
a
is,
foreign woman.
they also say, that black women or whatever are more masculine or whatever. But it's like by not doing your job as a male and doing completing your natural role in nature as a male, which is to provide, you're not allowing her to operate completely in her feminine role. White
Right.
women, I mean, I grew up in the suburbs, so a lot of the moms, they were stay-at-home moms. They, took their children to soccer games, did whatever, and the men went out and worked. So they're
That's
able
right.
to be more feminine. They're able to operate in the feminine role because the man is operating in his masculine role. So don't
But I go.
sit here and
I,
look at white women as, oh, the cream of the crop or whatever, when you're not doing, since they idolize white people so much, you're not even at least doing what white men do, which is go out and provide. So
That's
and
don't
we
right.
talk
gotta
about black women.
get out that box of roles because really what it should be based on is who has the talent. If the woman is better at managing the money, then she should manage the money. If the man is better at cooking, then maybe he should be the one that's cooking. Instead of looking at it like, okay, well, that's your job to do this, let's look at who is better at doing it. That would make more sense. You know,
That's
whoever
right.
has, because if you put your strengths, if you look at it strength and weakness wise, instead of looking at it like role wise, maybe we would get a lot further and accomplish some things. And then going back to right quick, to the point of how many times have you heard or you seen or you watched on TV or whatever it may be, where older men that have been married to this woman for years. A lot of the NBA stars, they dated these melanated women for years, and then
Yes,
as soon as they got money, they left them. Or as soon as that, as soon as they get a little power, a little money, they want to leave that woman for a younger woman.
that's
Now,
right.
how do you think this affects these sisters or our sisters' self-esteem?
They've seen it happen with their parents, and they see their mama raised them all depressed and struggling. Mama wasn't A lot of the mamas wasn't really happy. They worked 2 and 3 jobs, so they didn't get to spend no time home with the children. And then daddy left, so they was the latchkey kids and stuff like that. Like, people got a lot of issues for a lot of different reasons, and at
Right,
this point, there's so much healing that has to be done. It
Right.
has to start somewhere. And you know what's so crazy? Everybody has an integral part to play. Even
Yep.
if
facts.
it's something going back to them doing something that takes their mind off of the stress. I think the perfect thing to do, especially with some of these inner city kids in the summertime when the Negroes like to play with guns and go crazy and don't care who baby in the park, we need is a couple of our elders that have the land and they're looking to have us help them develop it. It's a
Right.
lot of our folks that have 16, 20, 30, 40 acres and they don't mind putting together a camp, a summer camp, a sleepaway camp, and we just get the funding. Now we ain't got our shit together. We need the grant writers to write up for these grants in order to get the money. We don't got to be begging and doing Patreon and begging people for all this stuff. There's grants for everything that we need. This is where the money's at that we're not getting the checks. They didn't write the checks. That doesn't mean the check ain't there. Nobody signed it. Nobody cashed out on it yet.
Right.
But these are the things we're supposed to be doing. If these kids can go away and get away, like, can you imagine what
Right.
it's like in Chicago? Babies, they sleep at night. Their nerves all bad and shit.
Post traumatic stress disorder.
Post-traumatic stress
Yep.
disorder from something that didn't even happen yet. Like gunshots is a rite of passage. How do
And
the elders
speaking
feel when they realize they can't even walk to the store? They can't run fast to duck no bullet.
And speaking on these grants, right quick, I've heard a lot of people, people waiting on handouts and grants to do anything. But here's the thing, that money is supposed to go to the American Indians, anyways, according to the treaties. Do you not
Well,
realize that that's your money? And
well,
do
how
you
many?
not realize that they owe you much more than what that grant or whatever would even do?
And what we gonna do? Ask Maxine Waters from the Black Caucus to go get it for us? That ain't gonna happen. That's why we need our own political party. We got taxation without representation. We can't
Yeah.
complain.
Because I've heard about the grants and stuff, but a lot of people, I don't know the specifics of it. A lot of people don't know how to go about it. And then it's also like how you word the stuff. Like I've,
Right.
I've talked to somebody who they talked to like this really, you know, wealthy businessman, and he said it's in how you word, your request for the grants and things like that. So it's
Right.
not even just, oh, here's a grant, I'm black, they're gonna give me this money. Like it's not
That's
even like
right.
that.
It's not
You know
even
what
gonna
I
work
mean?
like that.
It's really
You
you have to word it into stuff that they like. You know what I mean? And
That's right.
and and
You
and
have to be persuasive. You have to make it compelling, and you have to put yourself, you have to like on paper because you might be doing this, but there's another organization that's 10 more organizations that's trying to get this funding, that's trying to do the same thing that you're trying to
Right.
do. So you
Right.
have to try to put yourself out there as, like you have to make them realize that you're really the one that, that's going to do the most with the money that they're going to give you.
right,
That's right. That's right. But the thing of again, this is all going to go back to as far as the federal programs and stuff that's available. There really can't be a lot of excuses when we introduced the Civil Rights Act, when Battlefield Bernie and I introduced the Civil Rights Act back to the Aborigine community. It was really clear that a lot of people still didn't read it because it tells you that you cannot be excluded from any federal activities that anybody else benefits from. So when you're worried about the BIA and what they do for the Native Americans, right? What does that matter if you have federally protected activities? not regulated activities. They have federally regulated activities. You have federally protected activities. How many people been using their civil rights to get some of the
Facts.
things that they want? They
How many of
haven't.
us?
Oh, this say rights of Indians, and I think people kind of skip right past it. People still getting denied apartments. You're not reading Title 4 or Title 8.
Thank
Title
you.
1 tells you about the federally protective activities.
Know the
That's
laws
gold
of the
right there.
land. Know the laws of that's our problem. We don't know anything about the laws of the land where we stand. We don't know about our what jurisdiction we fall in, where you live currently. You don't know about your state laws and your state constitution. We don't know how
Mhm.
politics runs, and that's our biggest problem because
Right.
we don't understand what's going on how out here, and therefore if you don't understand what's going on out here in terms of law and politics in America, then how are you going to fix it? And this is why
That's
things
right.
are happening to us because we're ignorant.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And even that ignorance is a choice, right? Even that ignorance is a choice because it's not like there aren't cooperative ways for us to get together. So now maybe we need to have forums every Monday so it stays fresh in everybody's mind. Maybe we need to have these forums a lot more often so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the other sisters don't forget what we discussed on Monday night. Maybe we need to switch this up and have other people involved so that we can get an understanding of what everybody's needs are because everybody's needs are different. Some people got the police trying to mess with their son. Some people got the bill collector telling them they owe this money. Some people got this problem, they got that problem. In order to solve these issues, in order to find the solutions, everything has to be tailor made based off of what it is. Because what happens in your house may not necessarily be what's suppressing me and mine. So if I'm talking about the Civil Rights Act, you may need something else that's going to be suitable to assist you in whatever it is your plight that's going on in your house. You might not need the Civil Rights Act at this time. You might need something else going for you. However, it's there. It's there. And I know people are not using it. I know they're not.
Facts.
I know they're not using it with the problems and stuff that they're still having. I'll be like, oh well, did you make a big deal of that? It's only going to take 1, 2 times for somebody to hit them with that Title 18. It ain't hard to prove the conspiracy against your right. And remember, Aborigine, you got rights. White people got privilege. White privilege, not white rights.
Facts.
Not white rights. It's white privilege. Now, unless you're in the state of Georgia, Georgia gives everybody rights. All the foreigners that come in Georgia got the same rights as the Aborigine. That's something
Well,
you got to
according
deal
to
with.
that's what they gave you, but above what colonization or colonial gave you, there's something that supersedes that, and what supersedes that is the treaties and the tribal laws and the tribal rights. That supersedes all law and all of this colonial stuff. So you got to get back and know that as well. What kind of rights
Right.
did your ancestors lay down for you? That's why it's important to know where you came from, and to know like what tribe you came from. Trace back your tribe. Even if you don't want to
That's
join
it.
your tribe, there are other avenues like
That's right.
you can form your own tribal clan under
First of
that
all,
tribe.
to even find your tribe means you found your genealogy because your tribe is your kinfolk. And it starts with grandma. It's not just being a
Facts.
broad part of a Choctaw nation. They are on Dun and Bradstreet. They are in a different area. There may be a different band of Choctaws, and they may not be called that. You understand what I'm saying? So your tribe is your tribe. That is your family. If you got 30 cousins, guess what? That's your tribe. 5 brothers and sisters, guess what? That's your tribe. If you can't get along with your brothers and sisters, with your cousins, aunties, uncles, grandparents, parents, don't go trying to join up with no nation over there across town. Or some people that's saying they building some nation over there across town. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. Unless you're
Facts.
getting adopted into something, you got to find
Facts.
out if your grandfather is the alias that's called a Wasapitu on that treaty, because his real name might be John Harris. That might be
Right.
your granddaddy. Whose treaty is it? It wasn't no American Indians on the treaty. They got a name. It's something that they called themselves, and it may be a different title that falls within a clan. You see? So you
Right.
got this one tribe where my folks live. They was called the people. My Choctaw folks was called the people of the flat gray rock. That's Tiakahili Ikotapa. That ain't no goddamn Mississippi Choctaws. It's Tiakahili Ikotapa.
Mine is Quick Qualtown,
So
chiefdom.
right. So now you start with where your family is and the clan. The nation is a nation of Choctaws, a nation of families within these bloodlines, right? So we still can't get ahead of ourselves and do anything without our folks. You can't do it. I see people keep doing it and I know it. I know that they keep trying to do that. I don't care if you can only connect with one person in your family. Guess what? That's your tribe. But if people think they're gonna be able to just be joining strangers and they ain't got their own folks with the same commonality, their own bloodline, it ain't gonna work. It's not
Because it
gonna
has
work.
to be pre-colonial. If like it, a nation has to be pre-colonial. Like not every you can't as an individual truly be sovereign. You have to be sovereign under a nation can be sovereign, and you gain your sovereignty rights under that nation. Okay,
Right.
so and that nation, in order to be, and what a nation is a government. And in order for anything to be a government here, it has to be pre-colonial. The United States is not really truly officially even a nation, or or officially a government,
That's right.
because the tribes and stuff, the Indian tribes and the Indian treaties supersede the United States, and a lot of us don't know that because we're looking at one things one way and we're not doing our proper research. A lot of people are
Well,
not tracing their tribes. I mean, tracing their family
taking their
genealogy.
family.
It's a more important. Like people be like, "Why haven't you did the DNA?" I said, "I don't need to because I know my grandparents' names."
That's right. And let me get this, let me just say this. Uh the incorporation of America didn't happen until 1871. That when it got filed in Delaware. That happened in 1871. Pre-colonial, there was still first and last names and there was still coats of arms that our folks had too. They are migrational patterns. So now when you got people that was in the Revolutionary War and they came down from Canada back down into Virginia, there was people from North Carolina, Tuscaroras that went up after the wars. Not only did they not go to New York, stop letting them people in them books still tell you, even though you learning about your folks, if you looking for your people, you going to find them in the neighboring cities and states as well. Okay, if they went to a specific part of New York, the Tuscaroras went to Onondaga or Lewis County and stuff like that. You don't think they went to Canada too? A lot of people don't know about these pipelines. See, these are some of the things I wait to hear people discuss so I could bring out this next level of information because some of your folks don't went to Canada. And
Fact.
shout out to Kia Bay because she and I were having a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and there was something that she happened to have. So what I told her made sense to something that she already had, but didn't necessarily have anything to do with her. But it was an interesting article nonetheless. But it helped confirm that I knew I'm not tripping. Look at this. I got these folks up in here in Canada. They was in Virginia, and then when they disappeared, they not on this 1840 because they asses was in Canada.
We migrated.
Right. Not only did they migrate, but they went where the employment was. They went where the lesser of whatever the situation was politically at that time. So
Hmm.
you get these stories. I get these stories when people say, "Hey, I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I'm stuck on here." And I'm like, "You're not stuck. You're not thinking outside the box. You
You're in the
can't. You got
box.
to channel. You got to channel that energy. This is why it's best for people to do their own genealogy. You keep looking for this John Johnson, but didn't they call your grandpa Jack
Our doc,
or Doc
our preacher.
or Sam? He might have had a good
Hmm.
Tony. They named men Beverly. People ain't gonna look think they was white over here. Remember in Oklahoma, Sarah Rector, their race, they was considered white people because she was an Indian. Well,
On
we
one of
know
my
very
census
well Sarah
reports.
Rector looked just like me. So why when people go past that record, they just automatically say, "Oh, this man white. That's not my grandmother. That ain't my grandfather." That's why your ass is stuck.
Yep. On one of my on in 1870, on one it's my same family, the same names and stuff like that, same spelling. On one they're Negro, on the other one they're white.
Right,
Because they were free people of color and
right.
because they owned their own land and because they had their own business and hired other people.
That's right. Now I have and then it should be to the point now where people are able to find out what their other names was. And then some of these names, of course, we can't pronounce because we don't have the same language that we do anymore, right? But
Mhm.
who gonna know that John Harris was the Catawba chief? You're not thinking of
Right.
that. That's one of my grandfathers. I had no goddamn idea. One of my grand aunts, they called her Emily, the Cherokee princess. Who fucking knew that? Am I looking for Chipawake? Hell no. I was trying to follow my family names. Didn't have
Right.
no idea who they were. But now you go and look on the treaty and you see that that's their alias, right?
Yep. And then a lot of
It'll
our
have some
melanated.
name you can't pronounce, doing business as, or alias
Mhm.
John Harris.
A lot of
And our
our
people,
Go
also,
ahead. I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Also, a lot of people look at the time frame. Were the British still there? Were the French there? Were the Spanish there? Were they in a Spanish colony? That's where you follow a lot of your folks too. Some of them was loyal to the British Army. They went over elsewhere because
Right.
it was about the money. They was paying them handsomely. What the hell was they going to do with $100, $50 a month back then? 1700s,
And
1800s.
they
You know
also
what they could
tricked
do with
us.
that?
They also tricked us. They came in here like they were our friends. They had a bigger agenda. We didn't know it. They came in here like they was trying to help us, and we thought they were trying to help us because, like the French and the British,
Mhm.
they came in here like that, and because they already knew that we were fighting against the Spanish. So
Right.
they said, okay, well, we're going to help you with the Spanish, and the whole time, they're just getting in our good graces so they can push their agenda. And just like you
Yeah.
were saying, a lot of our melanated tribes are still out here. They're not federally recognized, they're state recognized. Are
Hmm.
all melanated tribes, and a lot of them still have your genealogy. When I spoke to my chief, he said,
You there, sister? Are you there? I'm not certain if the sister's still there. Okay. Something happened to uh BCFC. I'm not sure. Dominique, are you still there, sister?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Okay. Good. Yeah, I don't know BCFC. I don't. Maybe her phone died or something. I don't know, but she went out for a second. But again, and sometimes if you get stuck in a certain place, beloveds, take out the state. If it's that folks was in New York or they was in Virginia, put their names in and take out Virginia. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how much they moved. They went over here with this cousin. Ohio became a free state. You're gonna see all these people from Virginia. They then left to Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky. They wasn't just limited from Gainesville, Florida to Epps, Alabama. It took 6 days to walk. 6 days to walk. So you can find people in different places, and you got to give them a lot more credit. I think a lot of the stories and stuff like that, even when we see that no, they weren't slaves, we still have a little bit of that residue in our thinking to where we like, okay, they from Virginia, like they was always from Virginia. Hold up, they could have been from Florida. They could have been from Florida and moved all the way up. Some went to Canada. You got the Parkers, and now the ones that got mad at Uncle Joe, they went to Canada, and now they changed their name to Parkersons, right? They didn't have certain letters. You can also tell when you see the word like Goins, Goins. Ain't that Jones? Did they have the letter J X amount of years ago? No, they did not. So the J and the G is going to substitute for one another, right? So when you see that, do you think, oh, that ain't them? This says Goins. Would you completely rule it out? You completely ruled it out. Maybe they didn't know how to spell. Maybe the enumerator was a foreign motherfucker that came down and said, oh, I know these the Jones family, and they didn't know how to spell Jones, and they spelled it Goins. Now you couldn't read. Your folks couldn't read. They didn't allow them to read whatever it was. They didn't allow them to read. We just know that some of them it says they couldn't read or write, but we don't know if they couldn't read or write English, Spanish, French, German. We don't know exactly what it was that they could read or write. Sign language, we'll never know. We'll never know. But if they had 1,000 acres and 400 acres, they knew something. They knew enough. So apparently, reading wasn't that goddamn important. Whatever it was that was supposed to be read. So at the end of the day, There's so many good things that we got coming up. I would love to have these sisters on this panel again. I think this was really awesome. I hope this was helpful. I told y'all I wasn't going to be no goddamn male bashing session. There's some things we had to talk about. We'll get the brothers on here and let them have at it and tell us what it is that they need from them. This will be part of the healing process. We all need to heal. We all have trauma. You know what I'm saying? We all got to get over this shit. But the bigger picture is we all going to have our feathers up. The bigger picture is that we all looking forward to a better tomorrow for our children, for our men, and for our women, right? We still got open arms and hugs for y'all. And hopefully y'all got the strong back to make sure y'all carry these families where we need to go. You know? Um, to the brothers that was in the chat, participating, telling us how it is. I think that was so dope. I think that was very dope. Some of the things that y'all shared and stuff, and not worried about the machismo and stuff like that. I think that was really cool. We need to hear more of that because sometimes I think a lot of the women lose sight that y'all actually do care. But there's some things that we forgot being so angry from the things that we seen that will block a lot of these things out. And y'all trying to give us the message. We just want to make sure that we receive it, right? And we want to make sure that there's no miscommunication between us because as long as there's any enmity in between us, we can never really be the families that we used to be. So I just want to say thank you to all the ladies on the panel. I really appreciate it. Dominique, you're awesome. Thank you so much. BCFC, love, peace, and hair grease, my sister. You beautiful ones in the chat. Thanks for rocking out with us. Chapisa la chique. I want to shout out African Americans ain't African. And definitely to my beautiful Aborigine sisters. We're going to get this together. And thank you for the brothers for holding us down. Chapisa la chique.